Alright guys, so in this video I'm going to be tier listing all of Counter-Strike 2's rifles. So before the list starts, I just want to clear up a few things. This is based off of how good the rifles are actually in a practical game of competitive, so it's not just analyzing the weapon's stats, but also the price point, how often you're actually going to get to use the gun, and how much bang you get for your buck. So if you see a gun that's low on this list and you think that that gun does a lot of damage or that it works really well for you, I am taking other things into consideration than just purely how good the gun is at killing people, and since all of these guns are rifles, they are going to be pretty powerful all in their own respects, and anytime a rifle scores a little lower due to one of these factors, I will tell you why, so don't worry, you're going to get all the answers into which guns you should have equipped and what guns you should be buying in just a few minutes. This channel's been getting a lot of views recently, so if you are a repeat viewer, I'd really appreciate a sub, as I am going to keep making more Counter-Strike content, and whenever I make these videos, I do love seeing other people giving me their opinions on how they feel the guns are balanced in the game, so if you do disagree with any of my opinions, please leave a comment below and I'll read it and get back to you. Alright, so I'm going to kick this one off with a gun that I feel like most people can agree is the worst in the game, and that's the G3SG1, aka the T-Side Auto Sniper. Now, this gun does have its fans, and if you're one of them, I'm glad you're here, because you're an absolute freak, and I wanted you to hear that from me. This gun is wildly expensive, and it doesn't one-shot to the body like the AWP, which already makes it a freak gun to use, but when you consider that one of the best traits about this gun is how awkwardly accurate it is while no-scoping, it's actually a wonder that anyone ever buys this gun. Now, in Counter-Strike Global Offensive, you used to not have to equip your gun, so you always had access to this thing, and I still don't think I had seen anyone use it since 2015. This gun is an absolute relic of the past. The last time people unironically used this gun is before skins got put into the game, because ever since people have realized that you could just take the AWP and use it to one-shot body shot people, there's really no point in a sniper where you could shoot someone in the chest and they will still kill you with an M4A1S if they shoot back. This gun is extremely fun to troll with, but it also suffers from the fact that every expensive gun in the game got worse when they removed a few rounds at the end of the half, since you are going to have less time in a half of Counter-Strike to build up economy to buy the more expensive guns. Although I will always find this gun absolutely hilarious if me or one of my teammates is using it, there's no point you should ever bring this gun if your sole objective is to win games of Counter-Strike. And most of the time if my teammates do have this gun equipped, it's because they're self-admittedly terrible at scouting and they don't bother bringing that gun with them anyways. And all of these reasons combined are why the T-Side Auto Sniper is the only gun in D tier and the worst gun in Counter-Strike 2. Now moving on to the C tier, I think it's only fair and fitting that I put the twin brother to the last gun that I talked about, the CT Side Auto Sniper, also known as the SCAR 20, right here in the bottom spot in the C tier. And now, although this gun is a bit better than the T-Side Auto Sniper purely for the fact that people are going to be coming at you, so a lot of the duels are going to fit for your gun, the CT Side Auto Sniper is a rifle that is extremely expensive on a side where money is already a consistent problem even if you're not using this gun. Even if you're really tight with your money, it's no secret that on the CT side you need to be very cautious about overspending and losing your money because saving is extremely frequent due to the high cost of the rifles available to the counter-terrorists. If that's already a problem every game, it's hard to find situations where you'd ever have enough money to buy this unless you had an extreme lead over the other team. The only problem is to even have this gun equipped, you probably have to unequip the FAMAS, the Scout, or one of the M4s. All guns that are way cheaper and even more useful if you're actually losing a game versus this gun, which is only ever going to be useful if you're far ahead. The CT Side Auto Sniper is another fun gun, but again, if you're trying to win Counter-Strike games, this gun just lacks too much for how much it costs to be worth your while. Ultimately, the CT Side Auto Sniper is never based on how good it is though. This gun has always been about sending a message, and that's what it does best. But if you're trying to just win games and climb, this isn't going to be the gun that's going to get you there. And that's exactly why it ends up here so low on this list. Now moving on in the C tier is a gun that isn't bad because it's expensive, and quite the opposite, it's an inexpensive gun that's bad at killing people. And although Counter-Strike is about positioning, communication, utility, at the end of the day, if your rifle is actively making it harder to get picks on the other team, you're gonna be struggling to win your games flat out. The FAMAS has a bad combination of being horribly inaccurate at range and also having damage fall off, which leads to people oftentimes getting a headshot but not being able to convert the rest of the spray or struggling to kill moving targets that are flying across their screen due to the gun's inaccuracy. If you think about the other guns that are available to the counter-terrorists, it's actually pathetic how weak this gun is, considering that the next rifle up from it, the M4A1S, is immediately way better at range, accuracy, and damage while also having a suppressor. And recently when I've been playing, I haven't even had this gun equipped. because I often find myself just buying an MP9 if I have to save and not really wanting to bother with this gun, since even if I win the round, I don't want to be stuck with it on the next round when I have to fight against terrorists that are rebuying. My best tip with the FAMAS is to use this gun out of necessity, not because you want to, and make sure that you're not buying it all the time so that you can get onto the better rifles and be more of a threat in a gunfight. Buying this gun is a trap that I feel like a lot of new players that don't like saving fall into, and it's going to be a reason why a lot of people struggle to rank up as they get into harder and harder lobbies where they're trying to take fights at long range with this gun that's consistently bad at doing it. My piece of advice is to not use this rifle unless you really have to, because it's one of the worst rifles in all of Counter-Strike and you don't want to be caught using it too often. Now, starting here in the B tier are going to be all guns that I have equipped that have different levels of usage in your games, but I believe in every single one of them, so make sure you keep these equipped if you do want to be winning your games. Now, starting out is a gun that I actually buy a decent amount, but I don't think I can rate it any higher than this, and that's the AUG. Now, the AUG isn't bad. It's the scoped assault rifle that you get on the counter-terrorist side, and it's supposed to be the gun that you go to if you need to take longer range engagements. Weaknesses that I think prevent it from going any higher on this list. For starters, this gun is 3,300, which means you are going to struggle to find times in the economy where you can actually buy this gun, and if you do buy it and lose with it, it is going to hit a little bit harder since the next round you might not have head armor, you might not have a smoke, or you might not be able to buy even a full rifle. Right now, it's very important to win CT side rounds and to try and squeeze as much out of a CT side economic lead as possible. That's why buying a more expensive gun is going to feel extremely counterintuitive, because you do want to try and minimize the amount of saves you have to take in a half, and buying this gun is basically asking to get your money broken and be put on pistols the next round. Now, this gun does have a couple advantages. The scope makes it easier to hold tighter angles and to peek through smokes. The gun has a 30 round magazine and has the ability to one-shot headshots through armor, which is something that the CT sides usually don't have access to. But the range at which you can actually shoot through the armor and get a one-shot headshot is extremely close. Meaning that oftentimes if you had an M4A4 and hit the same shot at the same distance, you would have killed the player anyways due to that gun having a faster fire rate. Not to mention that spraying with the scope isn't very accurate, meaning that if you don't kill them in the first initial burst, it's going to be very difficult for you to continue getting picks. And oftentimes I find myself not even using the scope and just using the rifle as a more powerful M4, while relegating the scope to holding long range angles and using it to contest ops if I ever have to. And then again, since you can't one-shot headshot at long range, it is going to mean that the opper is going to have a chance to shoot back and possibly trade a headshot that's non-lethal for a body shot that'll take you out of the round. This gun isn't bad, it's niche, and since it is niche, you're only going to need it on some maps, on some halves, fighting against some teams, and you won't find yourself buying this gun every game. And because of that, unfortunately, this gun isn't going to find itself any higher on this list, even though it is a personal favorite of mine. And at the second spot in the B tier is going to be the SSGOA, also known as the Scout. And this is going to be your cheap option for snipers, but just because it's cheap doesn't mean it's not extremely useful. For starters, a body shot with this weapon is going to leave most of your opponents at one bullet from either rifles or some pistols. And the high mobility does mean that you're going to be able to take shots and get back into cover with ease, while allowing yourself to be very mobile around the map. This gun is extremely difficult, but it gives you a lot of bang for your buck and can be very helpful if the other team is low on health due to your teammates tagging them up and not being able to finish. Tagging players with the Scout is going to allow your team to push toward parts of the map that have hurt enemies, and this gun is also going to allow you to take easier duels against oppers, which your teammates will love you for, since oppers are a very difficult thing to deal with, especially if no one on your team has one. A good scouter or even a good round using the Scout can absolutely turn the tides of a game, since this gun is often bought on low buys, and if you use it on the T side, you can use it in conjunction with the Galil to have a very cheap buy that you won't get hard punished for that can also hit really hard. And it's no secret that this gun has an extremely high skill ceiling, with players like Scouter, the YouTuber, being able to take this gun into Global Elite and Counter-Strike Global Offensive, and I believe even to Face at 10. This gun heavily rewards players that get good with it, and if you do add this gun to your arsenal, you are going to up your lethality tons. But it can't be understated that this gun is weak at close range, and you are going to have a hard time pushing with it, and you don't really ever want to get caught saving this gun multiple times in a row since it isn't really that powerful, so if you do end up saving it, you may have to buy another gun and drop it for a teammate that needs it or even leave it on the floor. This gun is great for how much it costs, but it can't move any higher because it's just too limited by the downsides, and the downsides are put there because if this gun was any better, then everyone would be using it all the time and spamming it in all the games. And now, at the place where it is, you actually have to take in a very close consideration how much mileage you can get out of this gun, since it isn't so cheap you can buy it no matter what, and it is going to set you back 1700. Still, I would always urge new players to get familiar with this gun because as you get better and better, it is only going to start paying off more and more to have access to such a cheap but lethal weapon. But moving on from the Scout to the best weapon in the B tier is the SG-553, also known as the Krieg. Side note, it's a bit strange how many nicknames we have for guns in this game. I never really realized it until I started recording this video. The Krieg is the T-side scoped rifle, and the reason I put it above the AUG is because number 1, it one-shot headshots, number 2, it does more damage, and number 3, it allows the Ts to have a cheap rifle that they can use to contest oppers, which is really important against the CT side, which are oftentimes going to have them both on retake and on their main defense. Oppers will oftentimes try and get onto tight angles where they don't think an AK would be able to hit the shot, but if you come at them with one of these, you'll surprise them by being able to thread the needle and also contest them, taking away the angle advantage that they might have for using a sniper rifle. This gun's got a very large spray pattern, and it fires pretty slowly, so it is going to take a little bit of getting used to, but I love using this gun, especially on nuke outside, on angles where you have a lot of range and you want to be able to contest with high accuracy against either oppers or riflers who are going to be fighting the own inaccuracy of their guns to contest you. And trust me when I tell you, this gun is accurate. If you're standing still and click, I promise you, you are not shooting through anyone's heads. This gun has been heavily rewarding me whenever I've been buying it, and I've even started using it in my face at 10 lobbies. So if you're not already on board with this gun, I suggest you start using it because it does have a lot of usage and it's only $300 more expensive than the AK, which shouldn't set you back too far. The T-side economy is less limited by the amount of money you get back since the rifles are cheater, so it's easier to experiment and get more familiar with this gun in-game without getting too hard punished. But due to the other weapons that are available on the T side, I can't put it any higher, but I do love this gun, and I strongly recommend you start using it too. Moving on to the first gun in the A tier category is going to be the M4A4. Now, this gun is great, but it definitely fulfills the role as the close range rifle that the CTs are going to buy. This gun does great on sites like B site of Inferno and A site on Nuke, where you can use the 30 round magazine capacity and the high rate of fire to take multiple fights consecutively. And keep in mind that this is one of the fastest firing rifles in the entire game, so staying within a range where you could use that spray to your advantage, and being smart about which angles you're taking up to take fights, is going to be key in being successful with this rifle. Now, this rifle being $200 more expensive than the M4A1S will mean that sometimes you have to decide between a helmet or an extra piece of utility. And this gun is going to struggle at range because it does have a bit larger of a spray pattern than the M4A1S. And I think the reason why I don't want to put this gun any higher is because having a range advantage on the Ts is something that the CTs should be using often to get kills with low risk. Since the AK-47 is always going to dominate in firepower since it's able to have one-shot headshots at any range, the limited range of this gun due to the harder spray pattern will often be the reason why people will choose to either buy the M4A1S or even buy the AUG if they need to be taking long-range fights while still wanting to have good firepower. All in all though, when you're feeling your aim and you just need to be winning all of your gunfights, this is going to be the rifle you go to, but it does have aspects that bring it down just a little bit from the other rifles above it that I can't help but feel limit its overall effectiveness. This gun's got a great first bullet accuracy, so early on in halves when you're fighting against a lot of FAMASs and submachine guns, you are actually going to find it very easy to win gunfights at close to medium range outside of the comfort zone of a lot of submachine guns and the FAMAS. But the real reason this gun is so great is because it's so cheap, and you'll oftentimes find yourself buying this gun, full head armor and utility, and being able to be an actual threat to the CTs even when you're running low on economy. If you're getting consistent bomb plants down, you're going to be able to afford the Galil a lot, and the Galil is always a very good weapon because it keeps the CTs on their toes and doesn't allow them to get complacent with fighting you at long range when you're on ecos. Having a team of Galils over a team of MAC-10s gives you a real puncher's chance of winning late round situations and not having to rely on rushing and staying grouped. And although this isn't one of the easiest or best guns in the game, the price just makes it so attractive for using it in practical situations where you want to be conserving money, but you also want to be threatening. And one tip that I want to leave you with is that if you do get the bomb plant on T-side pistol, you should buy the head armor and the Galil the next round so that you're able to be a threat against the CTs who might not think that you have that much firepower going into round 2. Getting good with this gun is going to allow you to be a threat even in tough economic situations, so I do recommend you get comfortable tapping with it. And make sure that you use the money you saved by buying the Galil to buy utility so that you can get into a comfortable range where the Galil excels and take fights that are advantageous. And if you do these two things, you'll be able to win a lot of rounds that you otherwise might not have been able to with this gun. But moving on to our third and final spot in the A tier is the M4A1S in what I consider to be the king of CT side rifles. This gun excels at medium and long range, and it's got such an easy spray pattern that even at long distance you can hold down mouse 1 and be putting accurate shots down range where other people would have to tap at you. Players that are fighting with the Galil or the AK are going to find it extremely difficult to contest with you at long range if they're not very precise with their shot placement. And the suppressor means that at long range, people might even struggle to figure out where they're getting shot from, and this gun is going to allow you to play a lot of different angles and be very tricky with your positioning. Now, with all of these added benefits, this gun also is a little bit cheaper, and you'll find yourself being just at the threshold sometimes where getting chest armor, a smoke, and an M4A1S is possible, and that's going to be your best combination for standing a real threat against the T side. And the only real downside that you have to deal with is a slower rate of fire and the 20 bullet magazine capacity that comes with the rifle. But that slower rate of fire being traded in for having very accurate shots is very helpful. And if you're struggling on your CT side, typically what I would recommend is buying this over the M4A4 is it is a lot easier to use and is also going to be saving up crucial dollars that are going to matter over the course of a half of Counter-Strike and could possibly be the difference between winning a couple extra rounds that you might need later on to close out the game. Now moving on to the final two weapons in the game, it's going to be the S tier, and the first weapon I want to talk about is the AWP. And it's sad, for a long time the AWP has been the definitive best gun in the game, and it didn't seem like going into CS2 much was going to shake that up. Well, let's talk about some of the reasons why the AWP is no longer the de facto best gun in the game. So the AWP going into CS2 now has a 5 bullet magazine capacity. The AWP also has this new feature where if you're scoped up and you get shot, you're going to be temporarily not accurate with the AWP shot that you fire, which is a huge nerf because it means that trading shots with a rifler can sometimes mean that you're shooting through them and unable to actually secure the kill even though you were aiming right at them. Combine this with the fact that the movement on the new sub-tick system is a little bit wonkier, and you're also going to have a harder time strafing out and taking accurate counter-strafe op shots when trying to use this weapon offensively. And add in how expensive this gun is, and you're going to find yourself wishing that they didn't go down to 24 rounds total in a game of Counter-Strike, because over the course of a game, you're going to be able to buy less ops, and that's going to mean that every time you die with an op, you're harder punished than you would have been in Global Offensive. All of these changes have made the AWP way more difficult to wield effectively, and you are going to find yourself noticing them if you use the AWP in a lot of your games. That being said, the total range domination it exudes, and the ability to get one-shot kills to the chest at long range are going to make this gun almost a must-buy if you want to be competitive in higher elos. A good AWPer is going to always be a problem that is most easily solved with having a good AWPer of your own. But using the AWP has never been more difficult in Counter-Strike, and it's showing at every level, even pro. And that's why it's only going to be the second best gun in Counter-Strike. But with that being said, it's going to be very unsurprising what the best gun in all of Counter-Strike 2 is, and that's going to be the AK-47. This is going to be the rifle that exceeds at everything. You can get one-shot headshots. You can go ahead and take fights at long range. You have a consistent spray pattern that's going to allow you to automatically fire this gun at medium range with a lot of comfort. And you've got all of this firepower at a price of $2,700, which is going to allow you to buy this gun a lot and a half. This gun is so good that I even see sometimes oppers dropping it in order to save it so that they can have it the next round on CT where they're not normally able to buy the AK. And it's no secret that after a round of Counter-Strike, everyone will scramble around looking for any AKs on the ground because it's just a good gun to have and you don't really want anything else over it unless you are an opper and your primary goal is to save the op. And being good with the AK is going to be one of the things that is mandatory if you ever want to be good at the game. It's just got too much stopping power to ever be fully ignored, and even if you find the M4A1S to be easier to control or the M4A4 to be more comfortable, the AK-47 is going to be a gun that you need to be able to use even on CT if you want to get the best results possible. But I feel like a lot of people already know this, and that's because it's no secret that the AK also in Counter-Strike 2 utilizes one of the best mechanics, and that's how much better it is to get headshots in Counter-Strike 2, where the hit registration is a bit better. And since it is the cheapest automatic rifle that's going to allow you to get one-shot headshots, you are going to spend a lot of time that you play in this game using this gun. And I feel like most people at this point are always trying to practice how to get better with the AK, so it's good that everyone knows it already. All in all, I don't think there should have been too many surprises with this list. Again, if you did like this video, please leave a like and a comment of anything you think I overlooked or missed. But I do hope you found this video insightful into the current meta of Counter-Strike and how all the rifles work in the game. If you want to see more Counter-Strike 2 videos from me, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.